So I hope you're feeling better.
Okay. That's going to work. We are live, oh my God, simultaneously on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. First time ever going live on YouTube.
Awesome.
And yeah.
So anyway, lots of people saying hi and glad you're feeling better. And wow.
Yes, me too.
No.
Yes.
People from
Hello.
Yeah.
So we are here today to talk about how to ride. How? Ride like a ninja?
Like a ninja.
What?
Of course, I didn't ride, but
I know.
but
what?
Yeah. But how did we come up with that? Actually,
we were having dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was something about the kids were playing with their little Lego ninjas.
Yeah.
And I don't exactly know, but we were talking about all the great qualities of a ninja or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, there's an online guitar teacher whose videos I watch sometimes, and he likes to call his students ninjas, guitar ninjas. So we were just joking that this would be fun.
And the kids were playing with their ninjas, their little Lego ninjas, and they happened to have a horse to put it on.
Yeah.
So we were like, ninja dressage. And we were like,
dressage ninjas.
Wait a second.
Yeah, so I thought it would be
fun
actually to do something with that. So it started a little bit as, entertainment, as a joke, exactly. But you can actually do something serious or something useful with it.
So we looked up, all of the what various people say, the qualities and traits of a ninja, and we, kind of spent a small amount of time researching it, and came up with some really great stuff that can be applied towards writing.
Yeah, exactly. So we made a list.
Of course, we modified it to make it suitable for writers.
Yeah, we had to leave some things out, like be ruthless. Or
I was like, nope. We're not
be deadly.
Be deadly. Nope, we're not gonna.
That doesn't quite fit with the writing, but there are other qualities that actually work better. Yeah.
So we are here to talk about how to ride like a ninja. And before I do anything, I have a PDF for you. Believe it or not, even though I didn't promise you guys one, I'm gonna post this for you guys in just a second. Okay. Hold on. I have to get over to Facebook too. It's so funny. Okay. Hold on. I want to give you guys this URL so you can go right now or afterwards. It doesn't matter. Oh gosh, it's gonna. Bookkeeping. Okay. Irene Schultz says, hello, I'll try in English later. I have a yoga lesson.
Oh, okay.
And of course, if you want to watch the replay later in German, you can too. Yeah. So here we go. Are you guys ready? Brace yourselves. It's gonna be crazy.
Qualities of a ninja. Of course, you could make your own list of qualities that are desirable or helpful, or that maybe you associate in your own mind with, ninja or samurai or something, that sometimes also use. So
or sloth.
Sloth.
Ride like a sloth. That'll be next week. Conserve your energy, you know.
So anyway.
Okay.
Qualities of a ninja. So at the top of the list we have mindfulness, because mindfulness is always good, right? In everything you do, no matter what it is, really.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these are a little bit universal, qualities that are useful in anything you do, not just in writing or martial arts, but really in all of life. So, but anyway, mindfulness, then when you apply that to writing, it's helpful if you be, aware or pay attention to your own posture on the horse, right? Your muscle tone, your weight distribution, like, do you have more weight on your seat bones, more on your thighs and knees? Do you have more weight on the left, more weight on the right? And Is your posture straight? Are you slouching? Are you leaning somewhere? Forward, backward, left, right, those kind of things. And be aware not only of like where you are in space and where your weight is, but try to observe the horse's reaction. Right? Does the horse like where you are sitting, how you're sitting, or is the horse objecting to that? And then, if the horse is objecting, maybe change it, modify it, and see if the horse's attitude and posture and so on changes along with your posture.
Yeah, and I would like to also add to be mindful of your own processing and your own chatter, right? The chatter that goes on in our heads all the time, and your perhaps emotional reactions rather than the analytical reactions. So I don't mean the intuition. Intuition is good, but be aware, mindful of that too. But to be aware of the emotional reactions that come up when you get triggered, like, when you get frustrated or angry, and to be mindful of these things and catch them, see them come through and go, oh, that's what you are. Huh, that was my frustration coming up. I don't have to do anything about that right now. And see it on its little way, give it wings and let it fly away.
Yeah, that's true. All the whole monkey mind chatter, the self-criticism, the berating, the shaming that we do to ourselves sometimes, that kind of thing.
Be mindful of all of these things. Be mindful of perhaps you're trying to ride a certain way because somebody's watching. We've all been there. We've all done this. It's totally, you're human just like we are. But be mindful of that because this will affect your relationship with your horse and how you show up for your horse. It will affect your ride. So be mindful of this when these things come up. Yeah.
Yeah. But also pay attention to the line of travel that you're trying to ride. Be observant of the horse's alignment or lack thereof. Like, is your horse really aligned properly on the line, or is he drifting in or out with the shoulders, with the hind legs, that kind of thing? Observe the tempo. Is the tempo too fast or too slow? Is it regular, consistent, or does the horse speed up and slow down? Is the stride length consistent, or does he take shorter strides, longer strides? Is the energy level sufficient, too high, too low? Is the horse tense? Is he sleepy? Observe the balance, like the weight distribution of the horse. Like, good question to ask is always which leg of the horse is supporting the majority of the weight. Which one of the legs that's on the ground at the moment. And so that gives you important clues, as to, what you may have to do or change potentially. Check the suppleness of the horse. So are there any, tightnesses, stiffnesses in the horse's musculature? Is he bracing somewhere? Also check the permeability of the aids that's connected. Do the aids go through? If they don't go through, why not? Is there a muscle blockage, stiffness, or is there a hypermobile area where, there's a false bend somewhere where the aids or the impulsion of the hind legs just disappears, like in a black hole, that kind of thing. So those would be important things to pay attention to. So for the horse, it's sort of these parameters of the gait, and for us, it's the seat, the aids, also maybe the timing of the aids, which aids am I giving, when am I giving them, how am I giving them, what coordination, that kind of thing. So these are all important things to pay attention to and monitor basically all the time, because you get really important information from that.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So be very mindful about everything inside and out. Next one.
Yeah, next one is the calmness, or we have called it Zen-like calm. So calmness is good, right? Because calmness can influence the horse to be calm also.
And it's your center.
It's exactly, it's a centeredness. So it comes from being physically, mentally, and emotionally balanced, really, and focused on the task at hand too. If you really focus on what you're doing, there's a certain calm presence about that. To presence of mind, and that draws the horse in, right? And this calmness and quietness attracts the horse's attention too. Whereas people who are very scattered and whose energy is all over the place and who are unbalanced in some way, they can scare the horses or make the horse edgy or nervous.
The erraticness,
exactly.
puts the horse on stress.
So even on the ground, even when you walk into the horse's stall with a scattered, edgy, energy, the horses can get scared and then nervous and fidgety and so on. So it's good to kind of calm yourself, empty your mind, calm your energy down before you go to the horse, before you even open the stall door. And
carry that with you throughout the ride. And if you get bothered by something, come back to your calm.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's of course related to mindfulness, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're related. And this, the energy that you emanate is something the horse can feel even when you're lunging the horse and you're not actually that close to the horse.
Yeah.
At 10 meters distance or whatever, the horses still feel it. They still, and they respond to it if they're sensitive.
Yeah, they
creatures,
can feel your energy. They can feel, whether you're erratic or centered.
Yeah, so that might be good to with how you're feeling, also emotional state, the emotional balance, and you could do some breathing exercises to help center yourself or calm yourself down, or meditate a little bit. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to go from a stressful, hectic job and traffic to the horse and then be all like Buddha and serene and calm and peaceful, right? And let all that go. Your irritating colleagues who got on your nerves, or the boss that annoyed you, or whatever.
Or kids.
So it's good to try and let that go, and maybe you can have some sort of a ritual actually when you go to the barn where you kind of leave all the stress and distractions somewhere, at the barn door, and clear your mind, and then
maybe even have a space you sit for a few minutes and call it whatever you want. If you don't, the word meditation frightens you, just call it just sitting and quieting yourself down. You don't have to try to attain anything with it except to kind of quiet everything down and return to your calm.
Yeah, sitting quietly somewhere, have a cup of coffee or a glass of water or something that might
recalibration. It's just to recalibrate yourself.
Sometimes it might help to clean the stall first, or do something like some chores. That's a little bit of a physical kind of.
Or take your time grooming the horse.
Exactly.
So that you can kind of shed all of that and gradually tune into the horse.
Or take the horse for a walk.
Yeah,
that could also
that's
help.
A great thing to do.
So this calmness is important. The state of mind that we're in is important for the work, and the more sensitive the horse is, the more important it is, because they respond very strongly to our energy.
Absolutely.
Then number 3 on our list here is ingenuity. That's one I like. It's ingenuity is, you could also call it creativity, I guess.
Yeah.
So in other words, don't just operate by rote and very mechanically. There are people who do like the same sequence of exercises or patterns with every horse they ride every day, in every ride. And it gets purely mechanical and boring. It's completely out of tune with what the horse may need, or it's very counterproductive, and it's easy to get stuck in these ruts where you just fall into the routine and just do the same thing out of habit.
Yeah.
And it's important not to develop these crusty hard habits,
or to do something just because it had been working, because at some point things can change and it's not working quite as well, but you may not notice that because you're just doing the same thing you've always been doing. You don't realize that you actually need to change what you're doing. So that's where that can fall in.
So in other words, become a thinking rider, or be a thinking rider. If you already are, stay a thinking rider. Try to find solutions to problems by analyzing the situation and thinking, rather than by merely reacting, and be creative in the choice of your exercises and arena patterns and workouts. And then you can vary the type of work you're doing every day, but you can also within the dressage setting try to write different exercises. Sometimes you can, or very often you can, present the same sort of points of view from different angles, approach it from different sides, accomplish the same goal with different sets of exercises. And same thing when you're teaching, and when you teach a lot of students, it's easy to fall into a routine where you sort of do the same thing with every student every day. But there you could also try to think of new approaches, new exercises to do with the students, find new explanations for the students. And by the same token, you could say you can try and find new explanations for your horse when you find that the horse hasn't understood something, whatever, an aid or an exercise, a movement, something, a part of an exercise. You can always think of new ways of explaining that missing link to the horse. So that's where the ingenuity and creativity. I mean, I find them valuable. I find them really useful. They also prevent horse and rider from getting bored. They keep it interesting. Of course, it's a challenge. When you work with a lot of horses or a lot of students every day, it's challenging not to fall into a routine, not to get stuck in a rut.
It's one of those things.
Yeah. But so it requires a little work on yourself and a little active thought, as to, what else could I do, for example? So how else could I solve the problem? And that kind of ties in with the next one, the unorthodoxy. That's, of course, one of my favorites. So, in other words, don't just repeat mindlessly or copy mindlessly what somebody else has told you, but try to find creative, innovative solutions to problems. Like even if that's something I like to do in lessons, and I think sometimes it puzzles people when they tell me I have such and such a problem, and I can actually, fix it if I do this and that, or the problem doesn't show up as much if I do this and that. And then in my mind, that means, okay, so they have already one solution that works. Let's find another one. So let's not do whatever they found works, which is probably illogical to a lot of people. Why wouldn't you do what works? But it's always good if you have more than one tool, right? If you can fix a problem with more than one approach. Our old teacher used to say a good trainer should have at least 3 solutions for each problem, and he always had, countless ones.
Many.
Yeah. So it becomes a bit of an ambition of mine then to find additional ones. Like, okay, I found this one works, so let's see if there are other things I could be doing that work also. And in the course of doing that, you may find something that works even better. Or something that works equally well, because sooner or later, whatever solution has always worked suddenly isn't working anymore, because the horse has moved on, the horse has changed, now the situation is a little different, and then suddenly your favorite tool is useless, and then you need to find something else. So if you develop a wide tool set early on, then you don't get stuck so easily. You don't have to scramble
pivot really quickly. You can go, oh, okay, let me try this then.
Yeah, exactly. And part of that unorthodoxy is also that you're not just following like a cooking recipe because whatever mainstream, tradition says, or whatever favorite book of yours says this is how you do it. If the horse disagrees, don't force the horse to submit to that theory or that methodology, but try to find a method that works for your horse. So work the method around the horse and not the other way around.
Ride the horse, not the book.
Yeah. Horses, you have to do the exact opposite of what you learned once upon a time, because for whatever reason they don't function the way that tradition, that you come from, predicts or postulates.
Yeah.
So then collaborate with the horse to find solutions, right? So teamwork, basically. Then collaborate with the horse to find solutions, right? So teamwork, basically. Offer the horse different strategies, different ways, and then decide together with the horse what works best. Rather than sort of forcing the horse to now function according to this or that book or instruction manual or riding master or whatever. So that's why people will look funny when you do unorthodox things, and they may talk behind your back, but it's better if you and the horse agree on something and it works and it gets better.
Those people aren't the ones riding your horse.
Exactly.
You are. Exactly. And it's about you and your horse, and that's what's important.
Exactly. So sometimes it takes a little courage then to do something that's different, from what everybody else is doing. Yeah, so then here our next point on the list is bravery. Not often mentioned really in the context of riding nowadays. Of course, ninjas, they're warriors, they need to be brave, obviously. But, even when you're riding, there are situations that can be a little intimidating. That could be something like you're in a jumping lesson and the instructor raises the fences more and more, and then, they look awfully big, all of a sudden, awfully high and wide. And so it takes some courage to go over those. But then sometimes you have to deal with horses that are difficult, maybe temperamentally difficult, maybe
they're either fearful or they're testy.
Yeah, they could be retraining projects. Maybe you're a trainer and you have to deal with a horse that somebody else screwed up. The horse is belligerent and angry, and that could be a little intimidating sometimes, depending on what the situation is like. And then so it takes a little courage, and it takes also confidence and this groundedness, that inner calm to deal with that situation. And if you're not so sure of yourself or if fear creeps in, then the situation could go in the wrong direction, then there's maybe a certain danger, risk of injury and so on for yourself and the horse. So there is not always, but sometimes, this element of bravery. And
I think the interesting thing is to not to learn how to be brave and your intuition, but to be brave. To listen to what's going on and tap into the horse and what's going on. But sometimes the horse really needs you to step up and be brave. And sometimes you have to step up and be brave through your own fear too.
Yeah, that's often a kind of a difficult subject because you need to have a certain courage in some situations, but you don't want to be stupid. You don't want to take unnecessary risks, right? You want to be cautious, but you don't want to be a coward. Right? It's like, be cautious, be courageous, assess the situation, make smart decisions.
Being conscientious of all that's going on, all that's at play, the ramifications of any action that you take.
Yeah, and when you feel something like fear or nervousness come up, you could check in, like, what is that? Where does that come from? Because it could be the horse's fear that you're feeling, and it shows up like your own fear.
It can be that. It can be old stuff from yourself.
It might bad injury.
Nothing to do with this situation. It can be old stuff that gets triggered, and you have to come up with a way to be able to work through that so you can find your bravery to move forward.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a warning that don't get on that horse.
Sometimes it is.
And then you have to heed that warning, right? So that's why when these sort of feelings of fear or nervousness come up, you have to sort through them. Is it legitimate? Is it not legitimate? Where does it come from? Is it warning me to be, cautious, or maybe today is not a good day to ride? Maybe today is a day to do something else with that horse. Or is it, maybe just old stuff like Shana says, because you fell off, broke several bones, and
or you
then
saw somebody
you get
fall
a
off
little nervous.
and have a bad fall.
Exactly.
That can do it too. Doesn't have to be your own trauma.
Exactly. So
or you're a new mom, and it changes you to when you become a mother. Suddenly, I was a very brave rider before I had kids, and when I started riding again afterwards, I was really shocked by how easily I got frightened. And I had to learn how to work through new levels of fear.
Definitely.
So yes, important.
Important stuff doesn't get talked about very often, but from asking questions here also on our Facebook pages and stuff, we have found that a lot of people struggle with fear issues. That's very, very common.
If you do, you're not alone.
Exactly. And it's amateurs and professionals alike. Beginners and highly advanced riders.
I've chatted with other professional riders that have been in the same shoes as me. As they were very brave, and after they had their first child, a lot changed, and they had to also work through all of that. And if we can work through it, then you can too.
So our next little point is strategic knowledge. So to me, that means, studying anatomy, studying biomechanics and psychology, so that you're able to trace surface level symptoms to their underlying root cause, right? So you're not wasting time just trying to manipulate symptoms, but you're actually getting to the bottom of it and fixing the underlying root cause, and then maybe a whole range of symptoms suddenly disappear, not just the one that you were trying to work on, but maybe several others that you didn't realize were related. Yeah, and when you understand, anatomy and biomechanics and psychology, you can work with the horse and with the horse's mind and body rather than against them. And strategic knowledge to me also means, like, how do I build the horse a learning staircase, a learning ladder of little steps. Like,
so
how
it
can
makes
I
sense
lead
for the
him?
horse.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes sense, and so that ultimately, ideally, whatever I want to do next, whatever movement or transition becomes the horse's idea, right? So that you build something where you're a canter depart or a flying change or a piaffe.
When he's well prepared for the
Exactly.
next thing, so there's no big jump, but also it feels natural for the horse to do that next thing.
It feels like the logical next step. Like, we've climbed up that staircase, and the horse thinks now there has to come another step, and that is whatever, canter, flying change, piaffe. Also lengthening. Sometimes you can build things up where the horse is asking you, "Could I please do a medium trot now because my butt is burning?" From sitting so much, right? So it
feels so good to go forward.
Exactly.
I have all this power in me. I need to let it forward.
Yeah, or the horses start asking, "Could I stretch a little forward, downward now?" And then you can release that, right? So stretching forward, downward is one of those things that you can't make the horse do. The horse has to want to do it, and you then have to allow it, right?
Yes.
And so if you set things up in a certain way, the horse will get the idea that, it would actually feel really good now if I could stretch a little bit. So that, to me, also is part of strategy. And in order to know how to do that, how to build these learning step ladders, you need a little bit of anatomic, biomechanical knowledge and psychological knowledge. And that makes the training process a lot smoother. Right? So because you're really working with the horse, and the horse is then often happy to do whatever you would like to do, even if it's a hard exercise or an advanced movement or something, but it feels good to the horse. So it's like, oh yeah, let me piaffe, or let me change leads real quick, then I'll feel better on the other side, right? So that's something that's worth mentioning.
So next one.
Yeah, then equipment savvy. Of course, with the ninjas, it's like the weapons technology and that sort of stuff. But as riders, we have equipment, right? We have saddles and bridles and whips and spurs and all kinds of stuff, and lunge lines and cabeçons. So we should know these tech items or equipment items. We should know what their purpose is. We should know how to handle them, how to adjust them,
and know when it's not fitting right or working right.
Yeah.
This is very important.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah.
And know how to choose the right.
Yeah, choose the right equipment.
Tool for the job.
Yeah, right tool for the right job, exactly. So you're not, messing around with, 10 different bits, and nothing gets better because the bit was not the issue. Right?
Yeah.
But in other cases, you realize that, well, if I use a double lunge line instead of riding, then maybe I'll get farther faster than by just trying to fix it under saddle.
Yes.
And then if you have that technique, or work in hand, or lunging, or whatever, then you can make progress faster, more smoothly, less wear and tear on the horse and yourself. So it's important to know the equipment, know how it works, what it's there for, so that you can choose the right tool for the right job.
And for that particular horse.
Yeah, exactly. And, choose the right whip, choose the the right kind of bridle and cabeçon, lunge line, and so on. Because if you choose the inappropriate equipment, you can make progress extremely difficult, almost impossible
for yourself and for the horse. Like trying to sit really well in an ill-fitting saddle for you, not to mention for the horse, but for you, it can put you in a chair seat or perch you forward, a straight, stretched, balanced seat. It's very hard to ride in a saddle like that because you're just really fighting it the whole time. if you already have established a really good seat, you can sit in one of these saddles in spite of it, but it takes some effort. And if you don't know how to sit well already, then it's almost a lost cause. So it makes sense to get a saddle that fits you really well and seats you in a good position without locking you in, without a lot of excess padding and stuff. Here, you keep going.
Yeah, then the next point in our list here is the knowledge of the teaching of the old masters. So that's something, of course, it's an interest of mine, but I find it valuable to study the old literature because there are a lot of valuable observations and explanations in the old literature that can help you variety of horses that we can still learn a lot from them. Of course, they were not perfect. There were things they didn't know and things they got wrong, but there are a lot of valuable tips and insights and explanations that I benefited a lot from. And it's also, I find it useful to have a sense of the history so that you kind of know where our modern techniques and traditions come from, because it didn't just pop up one day, out of nowhere, but there was a development, that led to, the way things are today, and a lot of these things are the pendulum swings, and so then it helps us to understand the modern techniques better too, and put them into perspective. Especially if something is then sold as the one and only right way of doing things, and maybe in reality it's just a reaction to something in the past, like the pendulum had swung a little too far in one direction. Now the pendulum is starting to swing the other way, but it's going too far in the opposite direction, so to speak. And there's a lot of this back and forth going on. So studying the old literature and studying all the different traditions, the German, the French. If you can read Portuguese, you can read the old Portuguese books. They're valuable, and so it enriches your knowledge, your understanding of the subject. Yeah, then another point is diligence, right? Like, take care to do the little things right. That's really important. So my teachers, they were always very meticulous and precise in how you tack the horse, and everything had to be done correctly. So it's like, even from there, from starting with whatever grooming and then tacking and everything, pay attention to the little details, right? Because sometimes these little details have big consequences if you get them wrong. And it's not just that, these surrounding things that surround the riding, but also the whole training. Like, pay close attention to the basics, work on them properly. This carrying wood and chopping water. No, the other way around. Carrying water, chopping wood.
I like that.
I know. I always get that.
That's a total Shana-ism.
Yeah. So these things, they are really valuable, right? Always, do the little things. So instead of trying to create big miracles, just do the little things, the mundane things, as well as you can, and then out of that can grow miracles sometimes.
Ride a really great circle instead of trying to throw your horse into a half pass that is not well prepared and isn't going to go well.
Yeah, and when you ride exercises or whatever, or movements or anything, the little detours as a result of what you decide. Very often, really bad accidents happen because an aspect,